Hello there, my friend. Thank you for joining me again on this occasion when we're going to look at how to grow your business. We've entitled this A Grower's Guide to Growing Business. It is part of our EMOS seminar series. My name is Brian Cerny. EMOS stands for Effective Marketing, Advertising, and Selling, and that is all of importance when we look at how you grow your business. These fundamental aspects of bringing your product to market in an efficient way, in an effective way, how advertising is a part of your overall plan, your marketing and your selling is critical in its application, is emphatic that you understand how these principles in advertising work. And we're going to go through a number of those here for you today. It so happens that, as you recall, advertising is that sort of middle layer. I'm going to try to keep the mouse pointer out of your face. It happens that when you think about marketing, a marketing plan, that's stuff you can work out there on your desk. You can write out your business plan, and you've got your slogan and your taglines, what I call positioning statements, because you're positioning your brand in the minds of your best prospect. And you've got a strategy for how you're going to sell your product. You're going out into the local neighborhoods. Maybe you're showing up at a farmer's market or a pop-up market somewhere. Maybe you're even selling to a grocer or a distributorship. So those things you can pretty much do without too much concern about methodology. But when it comes to advertising, that's where most of the mismanagement, even abuse, occurs with people who are like you and I. We have a business that we are operating, we have a product we're trying to bring to market, and we want it all to work. And unfortunately, we've all come to the conclusion, because of the time we live, and I mean the culture within which we live, that we're all experts. And we're not. Any more than I would represent myself in court or do my own taxes, I need someone who has a third-party objective point of view that is informed, that is experienced. That's what we're bringing to you here in this seminar series. It happens because, according to Marshall McLuhan, ads are the cave art of the 20th century, and I should say, no less true in the 21st century. Marshall McLuhan was a philosopher and communication theorist, wrote several books on the topic. His point is simply this: that any one of us in our time can scratch out some drawing, some message on a cave wall. Yeah, and because that's true, the preponderance of, the volume of advertising is staggering. And it's not going away anytime soon. In fact, we have defined the process as a culture. It is so fundamental to the way in which we do things that all of our media now offer advertising opportunity for us. But how do we navigate through all of that? When I was a kid, you had 3 TV networks. Well, then you also had public television. Okay, so 4. You had a scattering of radio, maybe 1 or 2 newspapers, and billboards. Right. And I mean, yeah, you had matchbook covers and stuff, but for the most part, media options were fairly, by our standards, limited. Well, we all know that's not true, and we all know as well that the internet has driven and is driving most of that explosion. So how many of us know what OTT is? Yeah, well, it's referring to over the top. It's that ad that pops up on your streaming video service, whether you have Paramount Plus, or Prime. Yeah, there's an ad coming in before, or a pre-roll before you watch your YouTube show, your YouTube video. Yeah, those are all now part of the landscape. What we're trying to do for you here is provide you some logical, rational guidance. And it's not based in your brother-in-law's assertion that advertising is a waste of money and time. Yeah, I mean, no, advertising doesn't work. Radio doesn't work. TV doesn't work. Yeah, well, okay. Let me remind you of something I've said to you before. All advertising media work in some way, but they don't all work the same way. The problems that I've seen in the last 43 years that I've been doing this for people here and around the country, it really has to do with not understanding some of the fundamentals of the medium they've chosen, the manner in which they're constructing, designing their message, and how skillful they are in reaching the particular group of people, their market, prospective customers, buyers. They have to rely on the will of the ad rep that is telling them, yeah, our particular choice is the best choice, whether they're selling TV ads or matchbook covers. And in the same 43 years, I've seen a lot of abuse in that regard. Why? Because ad reps aren't working for you. They're working for the companies that are selling you the advertising. So what are we going to do here tonight? We're going to take a formulated approach in helping you better appreciate some very simple ideas, but are critical to your success. And I might say parenthetically, if you are experienced at all in the purchasing and designing of advertising, well then, good for you. And you certainly deserve everyone's admiration, because not only do you know how to grow collards, you know how to grow your business, and you know how to advertise that business. You're well ahead of the game. But frankly, most people don't. And so I would encourage you to seek professional help in this regard. Find somebody who can do the production work, whether it's video or graphics, somebody who's a good copywriter, somebody who can help you best lay out a magazine ad or a billboard ad or whatever else it is that you're deciding to do. All of that formulation comes down to a couple of very simple ideas. The first being, well, who are we trying to reach? Are our best prospects 18 to 25-year-olds? Or are they more like 55 and older? Their media choices are going to be dramatically different most of the time. So TikTok, which has now outpaced YouTube, unthinkable a decade ago, it's the fastest growing social media platform in the world. And yeah, Snapchat similarly. Now, some of these media are not appropriate for advertising, just don't. TikTok, however, has made inroads. And you're going to see a lot more advertising showing up on TikTok for the foreseeable future. But it may not be your best choice if, in fact, you're trying to reach, let's say, a more consistent audience or a more established audience of consumers. For that, you want to be able to consider not just the people you're reaching, but the message that you're trying to deliver. So your message may not fit well within a 30 or 40 second video that shows up on TikTok. For that matter, it may not work as well on broadcast television or in any video format. It may be that print in some form, it may be that radio in some fashion or audio recordings may be your best bet. There's lots of ways that you can deliver using these various media based on the message you're sending. Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Remember that in our first session we talked about the importance of knowing why it is that you're doing what you do. Not only do you need to know how to convey that message, you need to know if in fact your audience is able to capture your sense of commitment, your belief in what you do. Remember, we talked about Dr. Martin Luther King saying, I have a dream. Yeah, he told us what he believed could happen. He saw the future. Well, what is that future that you envision for your customers? What is it that you believe your product can do for me that is unique among all of your competitors? What is it about the way that you do what you have in mind that makes you specifically unique to this prospect, this particular person? Maybe I'm looking for a certain quality of product that you offer. And if you can use in your messaging the medium that is best going to deliver that for me, well, you're now using a formulated approach. So let's look at some of those ideas when we talk about marketing, the market you're targeting, your message, and the medium of choice. We'll go back to Marshall McLuhan for just a moment. And another assertion of his, famous, the medium itself is the message. Well, that sounds like an overstatement. But his point is that television or video has within its own properties a degree of messaging. It says, I have the ability to engage you emotionally in a way that not only creates emotion, it creates reaction. It creates a sense of participation in the product. It's frankly more engaging, as opposed to a ad that shows up in the newspaper, especially if that ad is not particularly entertaining. Then there's a balance there. So ads that are very entertaining. Let's talk about insurance companies. They've shown us everything from ducks to lizards to cavemen. Yeah, and all of them trying to entertain us within the next 30 seconds. Simply because, apparently, insurance is absolutely so boring that they have to do something to try to connect with us emotionally. You know, and the expression of sincere concern for your welfare apparently is not as compelling. I mean, weren't we, in good hands with Allstate for a long time? Yeah, right. And yet here we are, faced with ads that are so entertaining, we can easily forget what it is they're actually selling. You've done this many times. You watch an ad and then you stop and go, wait a minute, what was the name of the company? What were they trying to sell me? So in between the two extremes, we have to make sure that it's engaging, we'll say entertaining, compelling, but we have to make sure that we're not losing in the process the point. What is it that you want me to do now that you've got my attention, and that you have engaged me in the value, in the meaning, in the belief that is all about what you do. You've got me. What do you want me to do? How do I need to move forward? If I'm just watching you, watching this ad, but I'm not buying anything, or if nobody is watching what you're presenting, you lose in either case. So we've got to find that middle ground. Here again, this is going to help you a lot if you have people who are experienced in this business. Frankly, if you don't have that expertise within yourself, and I've told people this, don't try to engage a medium unless you're willing to do it to the very best ability that you have and within the medium's best offerings. Does that make sense? In other words, if your ad shows up right after we see this $22 million production from an insurance company, and you're front and center on camera telling us about your product, and the production value is considerably diminished, don't do that. You would be better to have not advertised at all than to put yourself out there in a way that betrays the value of your brand. you have to make sure that in the process you're telling us why you do what you do. Now, this is a magazine ad that I'm showing you here. It's not video. It's not necessarily, it's not radio. It's entirely visual. The text is minimized. But within one glance of this, you get the why. Right? So, this is a magazine ad that ran some time ago for a local business. And there is so much loaded into this visual that we find ourselves wanting to know more about the product. In fact, we're identifying with the experience. And here's this little guy watching the koi down there in the fish pond. Well, what does that have to do with selling plants? It has to do with the reason, the why of your enterprise. Because you want to create that kind of experience for every person that crosses your path. When they buy from you, they ought to have this level of engagement and experience with you emotionally. They can buy collards from anybody, we'll say, or from a lot of your competitors. Heck, they don't need to come to you. But you're going to help us better understand the advantage by sharing with us visually, in this case, why you do what you do. Let's look at another. In fact, this is a radio ad that I think you'll find interesting.
Hey, Jerry.
Hi, Peter.
Wow, you really going after those carrots.
Yeah, so?
Well, Jerry.
Hey, we're rabbits. Rabbits eat carrots, okay?
Yeah, but you gotta slow down.
Oh, no, you're right. But have you tried these carrots? I don't know what Farmer Brown did, but they're amazing. I mean, just look at them, Peter.
Yeah, they are amazing. Must be the Roberts.
What? Roberts?
Yeah, Roberts topsoil and compost. It's the best.
Well, it must be, because I can't stop eating them. Roberts, huh?
Yep.
Farmer Brown is a genius.
Grow your garden with the best organic topsoil and compost from Roberts Sand Company. Ask for it by name at your local nursery or call 576-1414 or click robertssand.com. Do the Rob.
So there you go. Roberts Sand Company doing what? Selling dirt. How do you make dirt and sand and topsoil engaging? How do you move people emotionally? Well, in that case, we use radio to bring people into a imagined scenario with two rabbits who were talking about the quality of the carrots because of the product. So there again, why should I be buying this particular product against any other? Because of the outcome. Because what it's going to do for the person who is buying the product. Here again, we're back to asking how we go about conveying information. Well, this newspaper ad, it lacks any engagement emotionally. It's all about how to do business with the advertiser. Now, as efficiency goes, it is especially efficient because the advertiser has crammed every little square centimeter with another bit of information. And in doing so, you have all the time in the world to go through this entire catalog of product and price. So this is how you can do business with this particular advertiser. It's a good use of the medium. Quite honestly, it's not a medium where I want to try to engage people emotionally. Color display ads in newspapers are a poor use, frankly, of the medium itself, and very costly. This advertiser gets it and says, you know what, I'm just going to tell them, here's the price, here's the product, here's the quantity. That is all about how we're going to do business. Now, here's an example of a poorly designed flyer, poster, but the message here got lost in the process. The advertiser was trying to encourage people to contribute, to give charitably to the local YMCA. And this is back many years ago, as you can see from the headline. Here again, looking at the design characteristics of the medium itself. Well, if you're putting a flyer in somebody's hand, or if you're putting a poster up on somebody's wall, the visuals here lose us entirely. There's nothing at all about this that helps me better understand. Worse yet, I'm faced with a with a monolithic presentation of text, and it's not even readable text. You know, it's basically a letter, but except this was not a letter that was mailed to individual recipients. This was a poster on a wall. No, this is a poor example of the use of that particular medium, even though their intended message was what it is that we do and what it is that we need you to do with us. You have to read through it until you get down to the last line where it says, you can see it down in here, if you're interested in becoming a volunteer, please contact your branch director. By the way, the Capital Region YMCA is out of business, sadly enough. No fault of the personnel, but I have to tell you from experience, their advertising was misguided. Well, here we have then another couple of aspects to this whole business of formulated advertising. And the question there being, is the ad that you've designed or had designed for you going to be effective based on the medium that you're using? Again, matching up the intention with the ability of the medium to deliver. Another great example, I think, would be billboards. And we've got plenty printed and digital. The printed boards are more costly because you got to pay for the printing of the vinyl or paper. They come in both media. You can actually print a vinyl poster, they call it, and you can store it. You can put it up for a while, you can pull it down, roll it up, and store it for a period of time. Not indefinitely, but it is reusable. Digital boards, a lot less expensive, and they're easier to present because if you've got a good designer at hand, you can lay it out as a JPEG. The billboard companies will give you the dimensions and such and the resolution. You send it over to your billboard rep, and within a matter of a few hours, and at least within a day, your ad's up in lights. But there are some design characteristics that are critical. You need a graphic, you need a headline, and a tagline. End of story. That's it. You cannot run a bunch of text up there. Nobody's ever going to have the time to read it. Most of these digital boards, they get about 8 seconds of show time, and in a high traffic area, even with people sitting there at an intersection, they're not going to have more than maybe one or maybe two opportunities to actually see your ad. So again, large scale graphic, a photo, some image, then your headline, buy more tomatoes, and then your tagline, joestomatoes.com. And of course up on the graphic there is the photo of this gorgeous, luscious tomato. Make me want it, keep it simple. And by the way, at that point, my efficiency is intensely dramatic because most of those high traffic billboard or outdoor advertising locations, they're coming in at about 180 to 190,000 impressions per day. Let's talk about that for a second. A medium that delivers impressions is simply saying how many times your ad was viewed. Now, it could be 180,000 views by one person Okay, not likely. But if you have 50,000 cars traveling past that location, again, we're talking outdoor, and on average, the person driving past that location saw it twice, well, there's 100,000 impressions. Right. And a lot of media are sold that way now, especially digital ads and streaming video online. They're going to tell you the number of impressions that they're likely to generate. Incidentally, when we talk about efficiency, I've had clients over the years that have said, oh, I got a really great deal on this because I'm only paying $5 per, whatever it was, a TV or radio ad, or I only paid $5 for placement in this particular, or let's talk realistic, $100 for this particular placement in a magazine. So their unit of measure is deceptive, because it's not about how many times the ad shows up, right? It's about how many people we're reaching, or the number of impressions that we're generating for the dollar spent. So when you're calculating the efficiency of the medium, incidentally, an outdoor billboard ad like that could run you $1,200 a week. I've seen them as high as $5,000 and $6,000 a month. But against what else you might do and deliver that kind of volume of impression, it's a highly efficient point of delivery. Right. So, again, consider that when you're making these kinds of decisions, if you don't have that kind of experience, find somebody who does. Somebody who can tell you objectively, this is what you're really getting for your money. And that question of efficiency then becomes a more meaningful part of your formulated advertising strategy. Lastly, from Marshall McLuhan, I love this one. Everybody experiences far more than he understands, and yet it is experience rather than understanding that influences behavior. All about moving people in our direction. So if we have an effective medium of choice that is crafted, that is to say that our message is crafted to best be displayed or conveyed, delivered, right? If we are doing that in the business of a highly efficient placement, so I've got this really great looking TV ad, I've got a great sounding radio ad, I've got a great looking print ad. Now I know that I can best maximize my effectiveness by making sure that the efficiency of that placement is to my advantage. So I'm getting the biggest bang for my buck, we'd say. Well, in all of those options, McLuhan is pointing out that the way in which people experience that ad is going to be a lot more important than necessarily understanding all of the intricacies of what you do. Too oftentimes we see in advertising people trying to tell us everything about their business. Go back to that newspaper ad where the guy is cramming every bit of space with another piece of information. That is not a customary way in which you want to bring people an experience of your product. And so find a way that you can get the delivery of the most critical components of what you offer. The basic realization of your business in the minds of people. If they can experience that in a way that's memorable, they don't have to understand everything about what you're doing. I will say this to you in closing. As a company, we spend most of our time listening to those we serve. We're about helping you ask the questions and helping you find those answers that are going to better guide you towards success. It's what I've done for these last 43 years. It's about caring for the people who are relying on us to better develop their message, to develop their strategy in all that they do with their advertising budget. Those advertising dollars are precious. And so what we do is make sure that we're using those dollars effectively, efficiently, and with always this purpose in mind, that when you consider the next step, you've got a good foundation to grow from. You've worked out not only those media that you're going to use over time, you're going to better understand what the sequence of those steps should be. What should I do first? With the budget that I have, is there any of those media available to me right now that I can afford to do? And can I consult somebody who I know is on my side, who really wants me to win? Well, that's what we do at Capstan Marketing, and that's why I'm presenting this for you here tonight. Thanks for being with me. We'll see you again next time for more EMOS Seminar.